They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. USC football isn't insane, but don't anticipate any changes this weekend.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you want to download this podcast, this show is always free, and I always appreciate your support. Today's episode, it's brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On yesterday's episode of Locked On USC, I told you what Lincoln Riley said regarding Miller Moss and who's the starting quarterback going forward. Quote, of course, 100% Miller Moss is your starting quarterback on Friday against Rutgers. After Monday's practice, Coach Riley told the media, Moss is starting. Okay, there you go, 100%. Complete confidence in him. Here was the full explanation. He's still executing at a really high level. He's making a lot of plays, a lot of really good decisions. There's always going to be a couple of mistakes, and the ones that he has certainly can't kill us. He's had a few that have obviously got to be better, but he's made a lot of plays, and he's put our guys in a lot of positions to make plays. Kind of like on the 2-minute drive the other night. I don't know that he could have done anything more, end quote. All right. I'm not advocating either way. However, just kind of remind everybody, Coach Riley has made a mid-season quarterback change before. But the question is, when do you do it? And it's not about during mid-season. When are you doing it during the season? Do you do it at the start of the game? Or you go to the bullpen during the game? Just to remind everybody, when he made that switch from Spencer Rattler to Caleb Williams, it happened during the game. He didn't start Caleb in front of Spencer Rattler. It was in that Red River rivalry game. Say that 3 times fast. When Caleb took over for Spencer, who was, by the way, he was a Heisman contender, front runner to begin that season. In that game, Spencer was 8 for 15. He had 111 yards, but he also had an interception and a fumble. It was that latter fumble, that latter turnover that set up a touchdown for Texas, and it put them ahead 35-17. And at that point, I think Coach Riley's like, you know what? I got to try something a little bit different. So Caleb came into the game. It was in the second quarter. It was a 4th down and 1. Oh, the irony, right? Anyways, Caleb broke through the line, and he ran 66 yards for a touchdown. At that point in the game, it was 28-14. Spencer came back into the game, and he had another fumble. So when Caleb took over, it was he took over after that second fumble, after the fumble. And I think he led the team to another field goal, something like that. Anyways, Texas was ahead 38-20 at halftime. It was a shootout game. The rest is basically history. It was Caleb's team from that point forward. He finished the game 16 for 25, 212 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. He ran it 88 yards. It was 55-48 was the final score. I don't know if we'll ever know, what Jaden Maiava would have done had he come in on 4th and 1, if he busts that for a touchdown against Maryland. But again, it's not like Coach Riley hasn't made a mid-game change before. Now, obviously, this one was at the end of the game. Circumstances a little bit different. I get it. I recognize the difference between being inserted into a blowout game, rivalry game nonetheless, and putting your backup quarterback in on 4th and 1 on the road in that type of situation. I get it. Not saying. However, why not at least have that play in the playbook? And what I mean by that is use all of your tools in your toolbox. Do it earlier in the game. That way, when that situation shows up late in the game, you now have another option to turn to. This what Coach Riley is basing his decisions on is this. He can go on empirical data. He can see practice and what he sees Miller Moss do in the games, and as well as in the film review after the games, when he's got to weigh the pros and cons. It's the cons, and when they happen during the games right now, that's kind of leveling the scales for Miller, or it's maybe even starting to tilt a little bit to the con side of the ledger. Coach called it Coach called it a mind game trick, like some Jedi mind game is taking over when you're watching the film. Quote, it's kind of a mind trick on you right now because people watch the tape and watch how we've played and watch how we've progressed. That tells you one thing. And then you go back and look at the record, and that tells you another thing. And you've got to really stay true to what you see on tape. What can we do to get better? And then how do we just keep going and going and going? End quote. So Coach Riley is right. In one regard, the film doesn't lie. It never does. You know, it's going to show any blemish on the most beautiful supermodel. And what the film is showing you is that Miller does a lot more good than bad. But it's those blemishes that show up on the film, and you got to start weighing the pros and the cons. Bottom line is this. Coach Riley is not making a quarterback change. 100%, right? That's what he said. Now, I spoke with a source close to the program who said, look, don't even anticipate any special packages for Jaden Mayava in this game. We'll see what happens. But for this one source, nothing special is being put into place. So again, we'll see what happens, what the situation dictates. We might not see a quarterback change, but I do anticipate seeing some more of the younger players getting more playing time opportunities, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. And keep an eye on the secondary. Cornerback. Jalen Smith has been a stalwart. I mean, he has got that one side locked down. It's opposite him. It's, when Jacoby Covington was healthy, no problem. He hasn't been healthy. DeCarlos Nicholson, both he and John Humphreys, in my opinion, been a little disappointing. So again, we'll see. At practice on Tuesday, Marcellus Williams and Braylon Connolly, they're both wearing their regular jersey numbers. What does that mean? That means they're not playing on scout team defense. Same thing happened. So when Jade Abasari and Cameron Fountain started wearing their regular jersey numbers, number 97 and number 49, respectively, it's like, all right, well, they're getting them ready to play in the game. And we saw that Jade played a few weeks ago, and then Cameron Fountain got a little bit of a taste again. The last time he played was against Utah State. So we saw a handful of snaps against Maryland. We'll see if those numbers increase going forward for both Jade and Cameron. And then we'll see, if how much confidence does Antonlynn have in Marcellus and Braylon Connolly. Again, the secondary, they're a little dinged up back there. You've got the cornerback nickel position. Greedy Vance isn't 100% healthy. I'm not saying he's not going to go, but if you need some more backup, right now Prophet Brown was the main guy coming in. We'll see what happens. So you've got some opportunities at nickel as well as the cornerback position opposite Jalen Smith. And again, I really thought DeCarlos or John Humphreys would be the guy this year. One of those two hasn't worked out. So USC is going to be playing Rutgers Friday night. So we're kind of like a day ahead of schedule when we start examining the opponent. So we're going to start talking about Rutgers now. And can Rutgers dictate the game? Their head coach, Greg Schiano, he talked about the challenges playing USC on the West Coast, night game. We'll talk about that next. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to have as many top tier candidates as possible to interview, right? That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team. They do it faster and they do it for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of over a billion professionals. I said that with a B, billion, which makes it the best place to hire. And hiring is really easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses, they're going to get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. And LinkedIn knows when you're running the ship, you don't have a whole lot of time and you probably don't have a lot of hats. So you might not have the time to resource, look at what you need to do. Thankfully, LinkedIn does. And they make the process intuitive, they make it quick, and they make it easy. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Last week, USC played at Maryland. I took a red-eye flight from the West Coast to Washington, D.C. Okay, first of all, red-eye flights, they suck. And they suck because when the hotel doesn't have your room ready when you show up to check in, it makes that flight really difficult. But overall, I think it's much easier traveling west to east than the opposite, or at least the way my body felt. I was tired at 7 a.m. Only because I can sleep on the plane, but you don't really sleep, right? Anyways, so again, I think it's much easier traveling from the West Coast to the East Coast compared to the opposite, especially when we're talking about playing a game that starts at 8 p.m. If it's 8 p.m. on the East Coast, it's still 5 o'clock in LA, right? No big deal. But when the game kicks off at 8 p.m. in LA, yeah, you're 30 minutes away from the old Johnny Carson show starting up. Yeah, I was a big Johnny Carson fan. That's really the last time I think I watched late night TV. So all of a sudden, it's 11 p.m. on the West Coast. It's 11 p.m. Rutgers time, according to head coach Greg Schiano. And that's why they're leaving on Wednesday. They're arriving, an extra day ahead of time to play their game on Friday night in California. Last week, USC actually left late Friday. They got to their hotel, got a meal, went to bed. That was the game plan. And again, the game kicked off 4 p.m. local time in Maryland. That's no big deal. It's still 1 o'clock on the West Coast. So head coach Schiano said this, quote, "We generally never go out a day early. We stay on Rutgers time. But when you have an 8 p.m. start time Pacific, I don't think it's prudent to stay on Rutgers time," end quote. He went on to say that he's always tried to take his NFL and college teams out to away games the day before, adding that when he's gone that extra day early, it really doesn't serve the team well. But this is a little different than anything he's had to do in the past. Quote, "At 2:30 in the morning, hopefully the game is on the line, but I don't like my decision making at 2:30, and I don't really like our players' decision making at 2:30 either." Okay, that's pretty funny when you think about it, but it's true. You're dealing with the mental fatigue, and that sucks. I get really cranky when I'm tired, and I sure as hell do not want to be making difficult decisions. Not at 2:30 in the morning. That's not what I want to be doing when I'm awake. sure not many people want to be making tough choices at 2:30 in the morning, let alone making a decision that could decide, high stakes football game. So he's right. Um, the Rutgers fans who didn't make the trip from New Jersey, they're going to have to stay awake till like 2:30 in the morning, maybe later, depending on how this game is played. I've never, well, I shouldn't say that. I used to stay up late to watch those Hawaii games. Some of you might remember Prime Ticket. It was a cable channel. And they used to show those Hawaii football games that started at, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night in LA. But again, it's only 8 o'clock in Hawaii. So yeah, I've been there, done that. It's hard staying up late for those games. Now, as far as Coach Schiano's thoughts on USC's team, he gave you his thoughts about the travel and why it's probably going to be difficult, more difficult for Rutgers traveling from the East Coast to the West Coast and playing those late night games. Really respect everything they do out there. They're really a complete program. Coach Riley does a great job. Coach Schiano went on to use the coach speak lingo like a pro. He continued, talented as all get out. He pointed to the speed and athleticism of USC's team, especially at wide receiver. They have a very talented quarterback. He said the running back situation is very strong, and the offensive line is gigantic, close quote. Okay. That last part, interesting choice of words, because that's exactly what I think of when I watch Rutgers on offense. A really good, solid offensive line, and they can run the ball really well. I watched part of their game when they hosted UW Washington. They just ran all over the Huskies, and it was like, whoa, USC's going to have to deal with that. Remember this name, Kyle Monangai. Last name is spelled Monangai. So Kyle Monangai. He's like, 5'9", 5'10", 210 pounds. Dude runs hard, and he does not go down on first contact. Coach Antonlynn referred to him as Cream Hunt. Yeah. Really good running back in the NFL. And he already has 845 yards, 10 touchdowns, and he's done that on 154 attempts. Do the math, that's 5.5 yards per carry. Rutgers opened the season 4-0. Rutgers, their last win, because they're 4-3 on the season right now, was when they hosted Washington. Since then, they traveled to Nebraska. They lost 14-7. Then they came home. They lost to Wisconsin 42-7. And then last week, they hosted UCLA and ended up losing that shootout 35-32. I saw bits and pieces of that game, and I was watching UCLA with some explosive plays. Like, what's going on here? So they ended up holding on to win 35-32. Coach Schiano believes that USC and Rutgers are very similar. He sees a lot of similarities. Quote, we're not here to play well or compete. We're here to win. And when we don't win, then there needs to be an examination. We need to make at least an assessment of why that didn't happen. The goal is to have one more point than they do. We both probably should have similar feelings about what we have to do Friday night. Should make for a great game. Again, that's something that sounds very similar to Coach Riley when he speaks. USC is at home. This is going to be the difference. USC is used to playing those late night Pac-12 after dark games. Rutgers is not. So again, if this game ends 2:30 Rutgers time, I think that's advantage USC. But if there are any Rutgers fans watching this game, if it's any consultation to you, I'm going to be up that late too. I'll be up till 2:30, 3 in the morning. I got to work, so it all evens out, right? This game's going to be interesting. So you've got USC and Rutgers kicking off 8 p.m. local time in LA. You've got Dodgers Yankees playing at Dodger Stadium a few miles away. That game, once that game ends, USC and Rutgers starts. You've got the Lakers at Crypto down the street from the Coliseum. I believe the Lakers are hosting Phoenix. There's a concert in town at the Intuit Dome. The big winner, the LA freeways. They're going to be jammed. Not looking forward to that at all. I'll be honest with you, though. I think for this game, because USC has lost 3 in a row, and it is Rutgers coming in on a 3-game losing streak, and because the Dodgers are hosting the Yankees Game 1 World Series, maybe USC fans take one for the team, stay off the roads. I'm not anticipating a really big crowd inside the Coliseum. It will be a mausoleum. I'm putting the over-under 35,000. Yeah, it's going to be a quiet crowd. So maybe that helps out Rutgers a little bit. In the next segment, I'm going to tell you if USC will beat Rutgers if they do these things. As long as they do this, they'll win. But first, let's do this. The NFL season's here, right? You're watching the games and you're thinking, where should I place my bets? Where can I do all my NFL action? You can do that at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And if you're betting on a bunch of games and you're only watching one at home, maybe that's the only thing you can do. You can go to FanDuel and you can check out live play-by-play highlights. You can see the stats, check out all the plays you need to check up on, and you can do a whole bunch more than just that. And you can also make money just by placing a $5 bet. If you've never used FanDuel before, here's your chance. They're going to get you started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. All you got to do is place your first $5 bet. Win or lose, you've got $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed, because that's FanDuel.com. USC will win because ... Well, they're playing at home. And again, I had mentioned in the previous segment, it's one of those old-fashioned Pac-12 after dark contests. Those get tricky when you're on the road. USC is at home. Rutgers hasn't done this type of thing before. I don't think they've ever started a game 11 o'clock Rutgers time. Those are Coach Giano's words. So, new experience for them. And here's another reason why USC should beat the Scarlet Knight in LA. If Wisconsin can go into New Jersey and beat them up 42-7, USC better beat them too, right? There's no excuse. No excuse. And while USC's offense tends to throw it too much, in my opinion, their offense is much more balanced than Rutgers. And I think that should be another advantage USC. With that said, USC is going to lose the game if they don't tackle well. I said the name Kyle Monangai in that previous segment. Coach Lynn said he's Kareem Hunt. You got to tackle this guy. You got to gang tackle this guy. He does not go down on first contact. He's hard. He is an NFL running back. This cannot be one of those games where USC's version of 2023, that tackling version shows up. Can't have that. In other words, you cannot have any more type of efforts like you had at Minnesota. No more of those types of games. And you can't have any more explosive plays. If you stop Rutgers' running game, you're stopping their offense. They are that one-dimensional. And I know I shouldn't say that because right now, USC's defense, they have trouble stopping one-dimensional offenses. I mean, Maryland couldn't run the ball going into that game, yet they still put up almost 400 yards through the air and just enough yards on the ground. USC pretty much kept Penn State's much ballyhooed running game that was averaging 200 plus yards per contest. They kept that thing in check. USC still ended up losing that game because of one guy, Penn State's tight end. They couldn't, I just said, they couldn't tackle to save their lives against Minnesota. And they just missed too many tackles at the wrong time when they played at Michigan. So Miller and the USC's wide receivers, they need to have their best game of the season. It's been a while. It's been a long while. If they have a good game, then USC's running game will take off. In other words, USC's gigantic offensive line, they need to open holes for Woody Marks and for Quentin Joyner. Joyner is a playmaker, especially if you give him enough times, enough chances to touch the ball. 10 isn't enough. So if USC runs the ball, the offensive line is consistent, can open up the holes. If Miller Moss and the wide receivers can get on the same page, run good routes, Miller throw great balls, no more interceptions this week, USC will win this game. If they continue to make those same mistakes that they've been making week after week, I don't care how late it is, Rutgers will find a way to win this game. And they'll do it on Rutgers time. I like Coach Shiano. He's one of those defensive-minded coaches, and I can picture him talking when he said that. So, all right, I'll be back with another episode of Locked on USC tomorrow. Get you some more updates of what's happening. As I said, do not anticipate any changes at quarterback, not just because of what Lincoln Riley said, but because I've done some deep diving. And at least according to this source, who would know? Don't anticipate any special packages at the quarterback position. Again, situation might dictate different. We'll see. But until that next episode of Locked on USC, everyone, you know what to do.